Hello everybody, it's Julia here from the Highly Sensitive Tarot. I'm back again today with a follow-up video. I think around about a month ago I did a video of my first impressions and a deck interview with the Tarot of the Abyss. And I've been working with the Tarot of the Abyss over the last sort of about 4 weeks, I guess, and I've just finished my month-long deck study with it. So I just wanted to talk about sort of my thoughts and feelings about it, really, the things that I've discovered over this last few weeks. So I really wasn't sure when I bought this deck how I was going to get on with it, because you've probably heard me say many times before that I like colourful decks. I like artistic, colourful, often quite striking decks, I suppose, that have an impact on you visually, I guess. And the Tarot of the Abyss is not that deck, really. As you can see, it's not colourful. It's all black and white and shades of grey. It is actually very artistic, and it is actually very striking the more that you look at it. I think with my aging eyes, I have to look at it quite closely. But I think this is a deck that the more you look at it, the more you see. And it's been really interesting, actually. I've really enjoyed working with it over the last few weeks. So the two cards that I've got on the table here, we've got the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups here. And I was just looking back over my journal of the last month just to see what cards came out the most. I tend to draw 3 cards every day. So that's, that's 3 cards over sort of 28 days. So that's a lot of cards. And the 2 cards that came out the most, the one that came out the most was the Knight of Cups, which came out in about a quarter of the readings, actually, followed by the King of Cups, who also came out in around about a quarter of the readings. And I just thought that was so interesting, because the Knight of Cups, I was trying to think, the Knight of Cups is the card that came out when I did the deck interview, and I asked the deck, describe yourself to me, who are you? And the Knight of Cups came out. So the fact that that has continued to come out such a lot, followed by the King of Cups, I think speaks volumes to me about what kind of deck this is, and what this deck can actually help me with, really. I think that this is a real emotional and soul-searching deck. Let me have a little read from the book about the Knight of Cups. And the little book, actually, that comes with this deck is brilliant. It really has helped me quite a lot. I mean, I've been reading a Rider-Waite-Smith style of tarot cards for over 30 years, but there's always plenty to learn. And I think when you have a new deck that you are studying, I think it's important to read the book. So the Knight of Cups, it says here, is the active force of emotion. In this card we see the knight as a sailor hoisting the sails and taking control and actively directing his ship. So this is enabling him to channel his emotions into navigating the ship successfully through turbulent waters. The King of Cups, it says, though the ship lists dangerously to one side, the King of Cups stands tall and majestic, assured in his ability to safeguard his crew and their craft. He remains poised and self-controlled while the heaving waters are not to be taken lightly. He stands as one who has ridden the waves of the emotions timelessly and understands their strengths and weaknesses intimately. He is lord over his feelings and master of his emotions. And I think really that's what the great strength of this deck is. And I hope that that's what this deck will help me with and will help to teach me, because I have a lot of trouble with my emotions. You've probably heard me talk about it before. I'm an INFJ personality, so feeling is a sort of dominant feature of my personality, and because I also have autism, I can often feel quite afraid, I guess, of my emotional state. It sometimes just feels larger than life and confusing, and I'm really hoping that this deck will help me to master my emotions at difficult times in life, to perhaps become a little bit less involved in my emotional state. Because it's interesting here, we've got the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups. So these are two people that are kind of masculine in their energy here. Even though this is an emotional suit, the Knight and the King are both masculine, and I do hope that that will help me to become less emotional. I don't know how to say it. I think with the INFJ personality type, I think the Queen of Cups is often sort of representative of an INFJ personality. So, and as you know, the Queen of Cups can be sometimes too emotional. She can be somebody who's up and down like a yo-yo, and so I'm hoping that with the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups here, that they will take on a more detached sort of perspective of their emotional state, and that will help me. That when I do a reading about something that I'm upset about or I'm emotional about, that this deck will help me to get some distance from my own emotional state. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. I was just trying to think if I had any more sort of general observations with this deck. I think it was interesting. Where are we? We've got 2 10 of Swords there, haven't we? And 2 3 of Swords. So this deck by Anna Terrain is an 80 card deck, and the 2 extra cards in the deck is there's an extra 3 of Swords and an extra 10 of Swords. And I thought it would be really interesting to see whether they came up in my journaling over the last month, but they didn't. I had no 3 of Swords and no 10 of Swords whatsoever, which I think is fab, actually, considering I did such a lot of days of looking at this deck that none of these cards actually appeared. You know, they're quite difficult, quite painful energies, even with the alternate cards that we've got here, the ones that are not quite so traditional. So it's interesting, I guess, that none of those cards did come out in my journaling. Okay, so I am going to put a couple of timestamps in this video. I'm going to pause the video shortly, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to look at some pairings, some deck pairings, because I have been playing around a little bit with this deck just to see what other decks it works well with. So I'll be back in a mo. Okay, so the first deck that I've paired the Tarot of the Abyss with is my Game of Thrones tarot, and I'm not really sure why it works so well, but it just does. I think many of the themes in the decks are have a similar feel to them. The colour palette is fairly similar, although the Game of Thrones deck has a little bit more colour than the Tarot of the Abyss. But I don't know whether you can see what I mean, but there just seems to be a similar sort of feel to these cards that I do quite enjoy them together. Do you see what I mean? They just really do look very nice together. I'm sorry my cards aren't all up the right way. It's not very helpful, is it? The King of Spears and the Page of Swords. I think if the Tarot of the Abyss was coloured, I think it would be quite similar, wouldn't it, to the Game of Thrones Tarot? So yeah, that's one of the decks that I have enjoyed using with the Tarot of the Abyss. I feel that the Game of Thrones Tarot can often be a sort of or is less of an emotional deck, so I think they're quite a good balance. So the next deck that I thought would go really well is the Barbara Walker deck, and again, I'm not entirely sure why, but I think, do you know what it is? I think because I found the Tarot of the Abyss such an emotional deck, and it's good for answering specific emotional questions, the Barbara Walker deck is a deck that I use for processing emotions, also for shadow work. Even though it's colour, I find the Barbara Walker deck really quite dark. I think it's quite brutal often in the answers that it gives. It really doesn't beat around the bush. It's a very direct deck. It speaks to me very directly, and I just think it would be a good balance actually against the Tower of the Abyss, which I find emotional but much kinder, much more benign. I think emotional energy on the whole. I mean, there's obviously sadness and negative emotions in the Tower of the Abyss, but I think they don't have quite the same emotional impact on me as the Barbara Walker deck does. I think if you're looking for something really brutally honest, the Barbara Walker deck, and if you want something that's honest but a little bit kinder, perhaps the Tower of the Abyss. But I thought that they would work well together as a pair. Yeah, so yeah, there we go. So that's the Barbara Walker deck. And I also have used the Tarot of the Abyss with an Oracle deck as well. And let me just get that. And that is my Soul Inspiration deck, which is so bold in its colour. I picked it up really just because I wanted some colour, but actually I do think it works really well. I mean, this card here that I've just turned over, for a start, purpose. I know what I'm here to do, with the King of Swords, and they fit really well together, don't they? You know, the King of Swords always knows what he's doing. Sorry, I'm upside down again. The the Nine of Wands, and we've got worry. I'm learning that worry doesn't change an outcome. So that fits really well, doesn't it, with the Nine of Wands. We've got peace here with the Six of Cups, which is beautiful, isn't it? I am a being of love and I release all negative energy. So that's a good message to go with the Six of Cups, which is about reflecting back to the past, you know, maybe hankering back to the past, to something that needs to be released. The Emperor and happiness. The Ten of Cups and growth. I don't know, I just think these, excuse me, these cards work really, really well together. What have we got here? Fear and the Magician. I realise that I'm testing my resolve to live in the energy of love. Wow. Grief, the Chariot. I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. Regret. I know that I cannot change the past. Well, that's a very good lesson to learn on the way to the world, isn't it? What else have we got? Doubt. And the Knight of Swords. I release the need to know all the answers. Well, that would be a good lesson, wouldn't it, for the Knight of Swords, for sure. So, do you see what I mean? Honesty and death. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. Yeah. Indecision. And the Five of Pentacles. Yeah. So there we go. There's some deck pairings, and I'm going to pause the video again, and when I come back I've got a couple of examples of some readings that I did, just two. Excuse me about my voice today. I've got just two readings that I wanted to show you as an example of how these cards have sort of worked out for me over the last few weeks. Okay, so the three cards that I've got on the table at the moment are the Four of Pentacles, the Page of Cups, and the Three of Wands. And the question that I asked on this day was, what do I need to know? And it was because on this day I was really nervous. I had volunteered to be on the interview panel for the autism services in Norfolk, where I live, because they were interviewing candidates for a psychology position, and I'd sort of volunteered my interest to help. But it's been a long time since I've done anything that felt in a more sort of professional role, or felt like something that I used to do when I worked. So I'd got myself quite nervous about it. So the day of the interviews, I got up and I drew three cards and just asked and said, I'm nervous about these interviews and my place in them. What do I need to know? What will be helpful? And they made me laugh, to be honest, these three cards. That's why I've used them to show you. The Four of Pentacles was the first card that came out, and this card is all about sort of security, isn't it? It's about hanging on to things, you know, wanting to know that you've got enough resources, money, whatever it is that you want in life. And this card, the person here, the pentacle they're holding on to, is enormous. And like I said, this just made me laugh, because this just brought me straight back to the reality of the situation, actually, that if I thought that I was nervous, how ridiculous, because the candidates themselves will be far more nervous, because this is a job that means security for them. It's a job that that will mean money, security, responsibility, having enough. And in the times that we live in these days, that's really, really important, isn't it? That people have enough money to go round. So that was what I took really from the Four of Pentacles there was, come on, Julia, this is a far bigger deal for the people that you will be interviewing. And then we had the Page of Cups, and I wasn't really entirely sure about this when I first pulled it, but as the day went on of the interviewing, this card just became really evident, really, in that the people that we interviewed were young people, to be honest. They were graduates. They were people that had just come out of university with their first degree, and they were looking for a position that would enable them to go on and get a master's or a PhD and sort of work their way up the ladder. So even though these people had studied and were quite knowledgeable, to be honest, emotionally, the Page of Cups really did fit, because these people were extremely young. They were just starting to steer a course in life, just like this person here on the boat. He's got his lantern, he's looking at his map, and he's trying to work out where he's going next and what he's doing next. And that is exactly what these young people in this interview were doing. And then out came the Three of Wands. And again, we've got that sort of energy there of opportunities, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for change, waiting for something to take you in a different direction. Opportunities, really, I guess. And so as soon as I looked at these cards, it just took me out of my own nervous state and made me focus in quite definitely on the people that I would be interviewing that day and how they would feel actually about the process and what was going on for them. I did wonder with the Three of Wands whether that might mean some kind of opportunity for me also, because I have done some voluntary work with the autism agency before, but this was my first time of sort of sitting in on an interview panel like that and getting involved in that way. At the bottom of the deck, because I always take notice of the bottom of the deck, it's often the real sort of crux of the matter. I pulled the Two of Cups, and I wasn't entirely sure initially what that might mean, but I think really just generally in terms of this reading and about what I needed to know and why I might have felt nervous, was that I think possibly this was about the possibility of me making some new connections, which is something that is really important to me. I think when I gave up work, I did lose a lot of connections with people in life, and a connection to myself, I guess, as well, in many ways, of my own identity and my place in life, my purpose in life. So I don't necessarily see this Two of Cups as a romantic aspect to this reading. It just felt very much that this was important to me, because there may be the possibility of forging a new connection with somebody or an agency, of bringing a bit more fulfillment into my life, I guess. So yeah, so I thought that was quite an interesting little reading to show you. And then the other one, what did we have? The Nine of Cups, the Queen of Swords, and the Hermit, with the Empress at the bottom of the deck. So with this little reading here, this was a day a couple of weeks ago when I was really poorly, actually, when I had a bug. And I'd got up one morning and just sat at my tarot table, just feeling dreadful, really, and sort of said, you know, I'm exhausted and unwell and feeling overwhelmed with all of that. What should I do? I think I was overwhelmed because I just had lots going on in my life at the time as well. It wasn't just that I was poorly. My son was trying to move house. My parents had had some problems. That, you know, there was just quite a lot going on, and I was feeling quite overwhelmed. So it was just, what should I do? And as I was shuffling, this Nine of Cups just pinged out. It absolutely pinged out of the deck. And I sort of sat looking at this for ages, really. And I think to me this was just like, come on, Julia, just wake up and smell the roses, you know, be grateful for what you've got. You've come a long way. Be at peace with yourself. Stop worrying about things, you know, just because you're poorly, nothing else has changed. Everything's okay. Perhaps instead of sitting worrying, actually just wish for good things instead. And then came the Queen of Swords, and that was quite a clear message for me, actually. That was sort of, come on, take strength from my ability to make good choices. Be calm, be still, and it will pass, you know. But take strength, take confidence from my ability to make good choices. I have that capability. And then we had the Hermit, who again is quite self-explanatory, really, which again is about being still in the midst of a storm. I think I actually looked this up in the little book that came with it, because I'm always very keen to see what the Hermit says. I'm a Virgo, and I love the Hermit card. So this one, it said, she walks alone into the desert searching. The Hermit has no regrets. She's gained profound knowledge of the material world, yet she knows there's more to reality than simply what is visible. Her journey is a slow one. She's in no rush. When she appears in your reading, it's a time for introspection. The voyage must be solitary. It cannot be achieved through others. Perhaps you need to take a break from the business of life. Don't rush. The Hermit is calling you back to center. You must be still in the midst of the storm, so that you must discover balance and the answers that you seek. So, you know, what a brilliant set of cards to come up, really, when I'm poorly, and asking and getting myself in a state because I'm poorly and I don't have the energy to do the things that I want to do. These were three very reassuring cards, I think, that came up. And then at the bottom of the deck was the Empress, the beautiful Empress in this deck, which again is just encouraging me to look after myself. You know, quite simple. Look after yourself, nurture yourself, you know, feed yourself well, rest, look after yourself, and do your best for your loved ones and for the people in your life. But yeah, I thought they were beautiful cards, to be honest. So yeah, I've really, really enjoyed working with the Tarot of the Abyss over the last month. I think even though the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups came up a lot, I think that my favourite card, which I'm just trying to find, actually, my favourite card is still this one. I absolutely love that Justice card, which I showed you at the first video that I did. I just absolutely love this card. This is what made me fall in love with this deck properly. But the more I've worked with this deck, the more I've enjoyed it, really. The more it's just given me really clear, calm, soothing responses to the questions that I've asked. I think it, like I said, I'm really hoping that this will be a good deck to help me master my own emotional state and perhaps to be less afraid of my emotional state. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing a little bit more of the Tarot of the Abyss. I've just today started working on the Bosch Tarot, which is a new deck that I have. I'm going to be doing a month-long study with the Bosch Tarot. So yeah, I shall see you again soon. I've got plenty of other videos that I'm planning, but probably won't do anything again for a few days now. But yeah, I hope everybody's well, and please do leave me a comment if you have anything to say about this video. That would be wonderful. If you've worked with the Tarot of the Abyss yourself, I'd love to know how you feel about it. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.